For 25 years, government and Eskom have, quote, sat back, folded their arms and done nothing, unquote, about South Africa's electricity crisis. This is according to lawyers representing 19 unions and political parties. They argued in court today that both the governing party and the state utility have been ignoring warnings for years. The court action seeks to have government's response to the rolling blackouts declared unconstitutional. While legal teams made arguments inside court, a number of unions took to the streets outside in support. eNCA's Manqoba Mchunu joins us now. Manqoba, thank you so much for chatting to us. So, in a nutshell, what came out of court today?
Well, Sally, one of the main arguments, of course, from the 19 litigants that are here before court is that they want load shedding to be declared unconstitutional. They're saying that the fact that there is load shedding in the country is a violation of human rights of South African citizens, in a sense that when you speak of public health care, when you speak of schooling and other crucial sectors, these have been disrupted severely by load shedding. In fact, earlier this week we had testimony from expert witnesses here in court that had really delved into how some of the deaths at hospitals could be attributed to load shedding. And what today these parties were arguing, the lawyers representing the unions will include NUMSA as well as SAFTU, and some of the political parties that include ActionSA as well as Build One SA, is the fact that they want government to take responsibility for what has happened, and also in the interim they're saying, Sally, that they want some of those crucial sectors to be exempted from load shedding. These include hospitals and schools, but also they also want, Sally, government to actually immediately start to supply these crucial sectors with alternative energy sources in the likes of generators and solar panels. And this is one of the arguments that they've made in court, where they wanted an amendment to one of the relief that they'd sought from court. And in that amendment, what they've been hoping to achieve was to compel government to install these alternative energy sources within 60 days. They mentioned some of the hospitals, about 93 hospitals that are still affected by load shedding, as well as 85 police stations, which they say they want to be attended to immediately. And of course that particular amendment was dismissed by the court earlier on, but they then went on to argue the case that they want the Minister of Public Enterprises to also ensure that they start a process of immediately procuring alternative energy sources for these particular institutions. So I think the gist of the arguments today, Sally, was around the exemptions of those crucial institutions, which they say has been detrimental to the lives of many South Africans. But of course, the political parties say even though that particular amendment was dismissed by the court, it's not going to stop their action here in court to have load shedding declared unconstitutional. And earlier on, we spoke to Herman Mashaba from ActionSA about the outcome of this court action.
Well, I think as ActionSA and 17 other organizations, where we've decided to put our differences aside, fight this matter jointly as South Africans, because the failure of Eskom to provide electricity to the country has had devastating effects on our country's economy and all the ills of our society. So what we want to really have a court order that can compel government and Eskom to really provide reliable electricity to South Africans. And we want this to really be a court order, because as you are aware, for the last 10, 15 years, we've really had one promise after the other and not really being fulfilled. So we want to really have this as a court order. Obviously, we respect the judgment as much as it's not really what we wanted, because today's actually amendments to our original papers, we wanted to really make this very clear, but obviously the judges feel that we must stick to our original motion that we've put forward. Our legal team, as far as I'm concerned, they are not really concerned about it. They are happy to really proceed as originally envisaged.
Yeah, they wanted to adjust the information there, of course, so that wasn't allowed. But there is a large group of people, as you've mentioned, Manqoba, and another politician involved, of course, is Mmusi Maimane of One South Africa. Let's listen to what he had to say today.
We want the courts to give us an order to say, so that when the government fails, we have a court order against them. A pronouncement that is made even at State of the Nation address. We saw the delays. And in the government's answering affidavit, their simply argument is that if we don't load shed, we'll end up with Venezuela. Now, that can't be. We want an alternative plan rather than living in fear of a reality that the government has been instrumental in creating. So what we are arguing for is that we want a court order, wanted to make it an order of the court to say energy must be provided, alternative sources must be given, and ultimately, whether they appoint the Minister of Energy or Public Enterprise or whatever, that's how the government implements its plan. But we, the citizens, know that our plan is going to be held to be account by this court when we come back here.
All right, so they want a court order, they want government to provide alternative energy, and in the meantime ring-fence certain key departments and hospitals, etc., from the blackouts. What is the state actually saying in response, and where do we go next in this case?
Well, so what the state essentially is saying is that, the unions as well as the political parties are seemingly jumping the gun in far as the application is concerned, given the fact that government already has a plan that it wants to use to resolve the issue of load shedding in the country. And in fact, they're saying that just by these arguments that these parties are making, what this means is that they'll then have to stop that particular plan and focus on what is being requested really of them as far as providing those alternative sources of energy is concerned. And they're saying that they need to be given time, Sally, as far as that plan is concerned. There is a commitment from government to deal with the issue of load shedding, but of course the questions that arose from the bench was around the timing and the deadline as far as those commitments are concerned, with the fact that there doesn't seem to be reliable deadlines when exactly this issue of load shedding will be addressed. And in the meantime, what happens then to these crucial sectors that need electricity, ongoing electricity supply, that rely basically on electricity to provide their services. And the state saying that of course the state does not have a legal obligation, especially the Minister of Public Enterprises has no legal obligation, and they're saying that this argument has no basis in law, given that they have a plan in place. But crucially, the state also saying that of course they are working to resolve some of the issues that the country is facing currently. And of course there was also an issue as far as separation of powers is concerned, saying that some of the arguments that are being made here deal directly with that, or they amount to separation of power as far as government is involved, because they are insisting this is not a departmental problem, but it is a government issue that government has committed to addressing. And so they are going to continue, Saturday, tomorrow to give those arguments. We're also expecting the lawyers representing these parties to also advance their arguments as far as this matter is concerned.
All right, so that case continues tomorrow. Thank you so much, Manqoba Mchunu in Pretoria. A little bit later this hour, we'll be catching up with Heidi Jokos. She's looking at the power crisis as well, but taking a look at what the electricity minister is doing. He's been touring a number of power stations.